welcome to another exciting episode of Doug's Electronic Repair Bench.
Good afternoon, YouTube. Here with you today to start looking into this HFT 90 FM tuner. Before I get started on the troubleshooting, I want to go over the operation of the FM receiver. We don't, or we haven't, I should say, talked about FM too much. We've discussed AM radio quite a bit, but it's very similar in design. It's a heterodyne type of receiver. Basically, it operates the same way as a AM receiver. The only big difference is the frequency and the way it detects the signal. If we take a look at the schematic here, it's been highlighted into sections. We have an RF amp and mixer up there in the corner, you see, and that feeds into the IF section. From there it goes into the detector. Now the detector on an FM, there are several ways of doing it. This one uses a ratio detector, and I'm going to be the first one to tell you that I have no idea how that works. I'm just not familiar with FM detection schemes at all, so we'll kind of learn this on the same way. Now you can look at, well, later on we're going to look at it and at the section, and you'll see some familiar items in there, like detectors, diode detectors, I should say, and we will take a look at that in more depth. But the other section of this particular, now if this was a radio, the audio section would be containing more components, but as this is a tuner, the only thing it does is as a preamp to bring the output up to a line level, and that's what is output of the output jack there. So the only other thing in this receiver is the power supply, and again that's pretty much common to any kind of electronic equipment. It's got a power supply in it. So we can take a look at the one stage at a time. We come in with the first stage, which is the RF amp and the mixer. Now this particular setup was supplied as a kit, and when the kit came from the factory, the what they call the front end, the RF amp and the mixer, was already pre-made and preset. So all you did was basically solder a couple wires to it and it was set to go. So we're not going to bother with that too much. We may put some input into it and see what we get out, but you know, that's pretty much set. We're not going to mess with it. Inside there is contained the tuning. Now I started to say tuning capacitor, but this unit uses a tuning coil. Actually, it uses tuning coil for the frequency input and for the oscillator. It does have trimmer capacitors on the coil, or on across the coil, I should say, but the primary tuning is done with a coil instead of a capacitor. So that's a little bit different than what we've seen. And also, if you look at this, I'm pointing out the first IF is actually contained within that pre-built front end assembly. So like I said, the first IF transformer where it goes into the IF section is in that one. So next we'll take a look at the IF section, and again there's the first IF, which is contained in the front end section, and from there it feeds into the first IF amplifier tube, and from there it goes to the second IF transformer, and then it's fed out of the output of the transformer into the second IF amplifier, and goes finally into the third IF transformer. And that's pretty much the IF section, and it's pretty much line of sight there. But like I said, that's the way that works. And then again, we go on down to the next section, which is the big question mark. The ratio detector. Now, for our intents and purposes, unless there's a problem in the ratio detector, we're not going to probably worry about that too much. But basically what it does is detects the signal. Again, FM signals coming from the radio station are modulated by whatever the music or voice of the DJ or whatever you want to call it, and it comes into your radio, and then it's separated into the signal, the audio signal. That's, it's basically, that's what the ratio detector does, is just takes the audio from the carrier wave, and so, well, in this case the IF, but then you can use the audio and amplify it, and that's how you hear it. But the difference between AM and FM is, one is amplitude modulation, which is AM, and the other one is frequency modulation, which is FM. So there's a slight difference in the way they're obviously accomplished. That's why there's a difference in the sound, because when you tune between FM stations, you don't hear a lot of the static that you hear on AM. You hear some hiss, things like that, but it's nothing like the static that you hear with AM. So there's quite a few differences between its way it works, but those are the main differences. And again, last section we look at is the audio, and that's going to be actually the first section that we look at when we troubleshoot here in just a few minutes. We're going to feed in a audio signal into the volume control there, the high side of the volume control, and the low side will be connected to the the output of the ground from the RF or the audio generator. And on the other end there we'll have the signal tracer hooked up, and to find out what's coming out. Now, if my suspicions are correct, this section will be fine. I don't think there's going to be a lot of problems here. I think our problem will be somewhere else. So that's about it for this overall. Now there is one thing I neglected to mention. There's a difference between the IF frequency on an FM radio. Most FM receivers use a 10.7 megahertz IF frequency. Now that's AM, if you recall, was 455 kilohertz. It's quite a big difference there, but that is one of the differences, one of the other differences, I should say. Also, we can use our old friend, the signal generator, to troubleshoot this and also align this receiver. There are instructions to use more FM oriented equipment like a sweep generator and things like that, but it also includes, because a lot of these weren't available back when this was made, everybody, the service techs all had RF generators, and so there is instructions on how to align this with just the RF generator and VTVM. So we will be looking at that too. So, but that means it also can be used for troubleshooting as well. We can pass an AM signal through this pretty good up to a certain stage, because basically it's the same radio up to the, like I said, the ratio detector. It's the same radio, it's just different frequencies is the only thing you're working with. The RF amp, it will amplify whatever signal is there and send it on to the next stage. The IF, the mixer mixes whatever signal with the oscillator and sends that to the next stage. And the IF passes whatever signal is in it to the next stage, and so on and so forth. So if it's got an amplitude modulation signal in there, you can use the signal tracer to on the RF probe and detect that signal all the way through it, up to you, like I said. And I think, I'm not really certain on this, I haven't really done a lot of work with this, but I think it will actually, you can actually hear that come out the audio section too. But we'll get more into that too. So, But anyway, that's a pretty good look at the beginning of what we're going to here. Also, I just wanted to mention I'm using, instead of my little audio recorder, I'm using my phone just to see how this works. So we'll see how this turns out, and we'll join you in the next part.